I was 34, living in Milan, Italy, and I had just heard something shocking. A friend shared that someone saw photos of my husband and me out playing miniature golf and asked, "Is she always so sad?" I was shocked and embarrassed to hear that it was so obvious to strangers. But I knew the answer to this stinging question was, yes, I am always so sad. I was an unhappily married fashion photographer at the time. I wasn't just sad, I was stuck and lost. And although our relationship was dysfunctional, and I told myself every day that I could do better, I stayed because I was afraid if I left him, I would be alone for the rest of my life. Then something happened. I found a book, The Laws of Success by Paramahansa Yogananda. I read a few pages every day, and then I went into my darkroom to print. While developing images, I contemplated what I'd read in the book and reflected on my life. One day in the darkroom, I asked myself, "Lisa, why are you so sad?" A wiser part of me immediately answered, "Lisa, you're sad because when your mother was dying of breast cancer, you told yourself you'd always be sad." Suddenly I remembered, while the other kids worried about what they were going to wear to prom, I watched my mother lose her hair, waste away, and die in front of my very eyes. And the story I told myself was that I would always be sad. As I was remembering this childhood trauma, my other me spoke again. "Lisa, you made up that story." This insight was astonishing. I had concluded that I would always be sad. It was true. The darkroom began to spin. A few moments passed before I could even respond to the other me. I don't want to be sad anymore. What if I were just to say that my mother's death made me wiser? I'd much rather be wiser than sad. "Well, that's also made up, Lisa," I heard myself think. And then it hit me. Oh my God, we make it all up. We make it all up. As I stepped from the darkroom into the lighted hallway, I declared, well, if I'm going to make it up anyway, I'm going to intentionally create my own reality. That was the beginning of an extraordinary spiritual journey. I was ready to go to work on my deeply rooted issues. Well, my mother was a rageaholic and a codependent, and my father was an alcoholic and a womanizer. And they hated each other. I had a lot of work ahead of me, but I knew I could finally change my story. At 34, I left my first marriage and returned to the United States from Italy. The one thing I wanted more than anything was to find true love. I did a lot of interpersonal work, a master's degree in spiritual psychology, dream work with Don Miguel Ruiz, 12-step for compulsive eating. I dug deep and looked at some ugly truths about myself. I began to wonder if there was ever going to be a finish line to all this inner work and if I'd ever find true love. Then, as if things couldn't get any worse, I moved to Los Angeles and found myself in my own worst nightmare. I was 40 and single. I had no illusions. I wasn't the youngest, prettiest, slimmest, or sexiest woman in town. So, I figured out how to become that rare woman high-caliber men are seeking. I went on 96 first dates in 2 years. I put everything I'd learned into practice. 95 first dates didn't result in a second, but the 96th first date introduced me to the man of my dreams, the guardian of my soul, now my husband of 19 years and counting, Benjamin Shield. On our first date, he asked me, "What are you looking for?" I told him, "Benjamin, I have been working so hard on myself for the last 8 years, and I'm just done working hard. All I want to do is find a great guy and have fun." He later told me he went home and took his profile down that same night because that was the sexiest thing a woman had ever said to him. He waited 3.5 weeks for me to come back from a business trip so he could see me again. He had marked it on his calendar. In 2003, Benjamin looked at me and said, "You should be a life coach or a therapist." When I asked him why, he said, "Because your greatest passions are personal transformation and love." I felt so seen, and I knew he was right. So I sold my business to an ex-boyfriend and became one of the first love coaches on the planet. In my heart, I'm also still a photographer. A photographer magically turns a blank piece of photo paper into a beautiful, timeless piece of art in a darkroom. I did this with my life, and I have helped thousands of women do this with theirs.